Hello, everybody. And today, guess who we are hosting in the house? This is Emiliano de Laurentiis. Hi, Emiliano.
Hi there, Noah. Nice to see you again.
Oh, it's so good to have you here today, Emiliano. I'm sure that there are a lot of people out there waiting to learn from you about all of the secrets that you're going to be sharing about the innovations that you have on AI.
Well, I don't know about secrets, but certainly, certainly, I'm very happy to have you as a strategic partner. And today we're going to be recording this podcast for your audience and also for Knowledge Avatar's audience. So we're going to have, in a sense, a joint podcast. And I'm looking forward to exploring with you, diving a little deeper into what is it that makes Knowledge Avatar special and Trainer's Box special, and how the two of us will make it more special for all of the Trainer's Box partners and customers.
And for the Knowledge Avatar clients as well, yeah, the goal is to actually allow them to have this unique experience and to really get to the bottom of how to use AI in the best possible way. Because as we know, like a lot of people are just, almost talking about the crust of AI. They're not really deep into it. And for everybody around who has not met Emiliano yet, I just want to quickly introduce him. Well, Emiliano has a career spanning decades at the intersection of cognitive science, education, and technology. Emiliano is the founder of Knowledge Avatars and is an award-winning courseware designer. He has been a pioneer using AI to enhance learning. His experience is grounded in real-world applications from designing AI-powered courseware in the 1980s to consulting for schools, libraries, corporations, and government agencies. Emiliano, I mean, AI is taking the world by storm. And a lot of people out there, they just want to engage with it. They don't know how to engage with it and where to start, how to use it, what's the best way to actually have this full, experience with AI technology. And I want to ask you, what first drew you to connect AI with learning?
So my background is in, as you mentioned, is in cognitive science, and it's in education. I have a master's degree in educational psychology, and throughout all so the cognitive science part taught me about all the research in neurology and learning and teaching. So we had a lot of that background. And then the educational psychology part was more clinical. How do we apply a lot of the research in the res in education? And we're talking about education in general, right? In any kind of learning situation, whether it's a small child or an adult. And so we started thinking, how do we apply these principles that we've learned through research, and how do we improve learning for everybody? And
Mm.
as you know, learning was, the teaching system that is most prevalent today, which is the classroom, was designed around the turn of the 20th century. And it was designed for an industrial age where we had to teach everybody everything all at once as fast as possible. We had to get them ready for the factory and get them ready to run those machines and to run them well, and to build them well. It wasn't designed to produce individual thinkers, critical thinkers, and any of that. That came along later. But really, the system, it was designed to teach as many people as possible as fast as possible.
Yes.
And so one of the things that we were concerned about, this was when I was doing my master's degree in the 80s at McGill University in Montreal, was how do we differentiate learning? How do we personalize it? And and this is, we're talking about 1979, 1980, just the turn of the decade. And the bottom line is this, is that if you increase the student-teacher ratio, meaning you have more teachers per student, or fewer students per teacher, that increases the learning experience. That is a simple formula that that applies no matter who the teacher is. And in fact, many, even where I lived, the time was in Williamstown, Massachusetts. There were public schools and private schools, and the private school teachers were often public school teachers that had left the public system and went to the private school, and vice versa. They were it was the same teachers. What they did differently is that they gave students more attention. And a lot of research supports that idea. So so when I graduated in 81, well, the first thing I did is I thought, okay, how can we apply this? How can we apply this to education to affect the most number of students, to make them to get to help the most number of students in the world? And I had a hobby. The hobby
Yes.
so, so the whole idea was to make learning more individualized. So how can we do it? It's very expensive to do it with people because obviously you could do it with tutors, or you could do it with smaller classes, and that's why private schools exist, because they can do it with smaller classes, but it is more expensive. And so how can we scale this up? And at that time, small computers, or what we called microcomputers, were finally coming into the marketplace. And I thought, all right, here's a technology. It was my hobby. I wasn't studying computer science, but although I had taken one course in Fortran, the Fortran language,
The
and
101.
yes, yes, exactly. And I thought, okay, this is interesting. I had taught myself BASIC. I had purchased a TRS-80 computer, which I don't know if you remember. That's a TRS-80. Well, it was a Radio Shack in the United States and Canada. I don't know if they were in other parts of the
Yeah,
world.
they
They
are.
probably were. So they sold kits, and they had this TRS-80 computer, a small machine with only 4K of memory, 4K of RAM. Yeah,
So
imagine
you say hello and you run out of memory.
only 4,000 bytes of memory. And but I had learned a lot about computers, and so I thought this was the way to do it. This is how we could do it. And so I put together a team. Uh, this was in 1981. I started developing this, and by 1983, we had a team of 55 people. We had investors who had come in and brought in
Wow.
invested the millions of dollars into our business. We had a strategic partner in the name of Apprentice Hall, one of the largest publishers in the world, educational publishers in the world. And we built this 18 educational software packages. But even before that, we had to build the operating system, because these computers were so low in memory. We had to create our own operating system that took over DOS, or that took over
Ah,
the
DOS.
whatever operating system existed at the time, because we had to make it run on 5 machines. So it was running on Atari computers, TRS-80 computers, Apple computers, PCs. Macintosh had not come out yet, and the Commodore 64. So those are 5 different. There's not just 5 different models of computers. There are 5 different operating systems.
Wow.
So our software, which was called Socrates,
Ah,
allowed you to create content. It wasn't available to the public. It was available through our company. You could create content and publish it for 5 different machines, and it ran on floppy disks. And when you put it inside in your computer, it took over whatever operating system it had, and it ran it very efficiently. It had animation. It was one of the first applications of animation
wow.
in the world. Color, of course, sound, and we incorporated a chat bot. And we so so
There you
so
go.
so it may have been the very first chatbot applied in education ever. And why did we apply a chatbot? Well, in those days, the only way to communicate with computers, because remember, this is before the graphical user interface. So this is
Yes,
before the
yes.
Macintosh. So the only way to communicate with computers was with DOS commands, or commands. Print, slash print, or slash directory, and so forth. Uh, so we wanted to, but one of my mentors was Dr. Gordon Pask. He was
Mm.
one of the top cyberneticians in the world. He was from England. He was I can't even think of the college right now, but he was from Oxford. He was from Oxford in England, and he was a visiting professor at Concordia University in Montreal, and we became very good friends and started thinking about how do his big theory was and the work of his life really was conversations between entities. So how do entities communicate with each other? Not just, and I say entities because how do people communicate? But then how will people be communicating with computers?
Yes.
And how will computers even be communicating with each other? And so he was way ahead of his time. I mean, we're talking about 40, over 40 years ago, right? That he had developed these ideas. And so that put a thought in my mind as well about having giving students the opportunity to actually communicate with with bots in as a learning companion. So you say, what and is that a good way to learn? Well, we call it the Socrates for a reason. The philosopher Socrates did not like books. We books became very popular, of course, in our century and before that, of course, since the printing press. But books for him, for Socrates, represented a static component. Like you read a book, you put things down on paper. Now you can no longer debate with the author the content of that book, right? So you ha from his perspective, it made learning less interesting, less efficient.
Oh, I
Yeah,
never thought of it that way. It doesn't become a
yeah,
symposium.
yeah, exactly. So now, so in Europe, a lot of the educational system is more like a symposium, right? It's more
Yes,
interactive,
yes.
or if I even at Miguel, which is based very much based on the English system, because we're part of the Commonwealth in Canada. Um, after the first year we had a lot of lectures, but after the first year, most of our classes were symposium or
Wow.
symposium style where we discussed and debated the issues and analyzed them. It wasn't just about reading and memorizing. And a lot of the educational system in North America, unfortunately, to this day, is still very much lecture oriented and expecting people to just learn what the teacher wants them to learn, right? Rather
Yeah,
than debating
information,
with them.
information.
And yeah, yeah. So we built Socrates to give students the ability to communicate with a computer with the content that was in there with that knowledge, whether it was physics or chemistry or algebra, and be able to ask it questions and come up with not come up with the answer, but come up with a deeper understanding of the
Mm.
content. So so we also built. We were also working with some very important educators. One of them was Albert Le Swan. He was a Vietnamese educator, but he was the head of education for UNESCO, and he also was was working. He was working on his master's or another master's degree of his at Concordia University, and he became one of my company's mentors and advisors as well. And we talked about what is the essence of learning. How do people learn? And and
Oh my
and
God, we just had this question in my last episode, and it was
yeah, yeah,
submitted to UNESCO too. Yes, it was like
yeah,
major
yeah.
project director. Yeah.
So, so we took these ideas that are scientifically proven ideas of how people learn, and we took the technology, and we took the idea of people conversing with a tutor, and we brought it together. Now, of course, in 1981, we didn't have the technology, the AI technology we have today. So, but today, 40 years later, we have such great capacity that where we can your AI can be your personal tutor, your companion, your
Helper.
learning buddy, yeah, your helper, your coach, and it's I wish, obviously, I wish I had what we have today when I was in
Yeah, so
graduate
many
school.
years ago. Yeah.
But we have it today, and that is what we are here to introduce to people.
So it was mostly about the reach, Emiliano, when you were linking AI to education. Primarily, you were thinking about the reach.
Well, we're trying to make it more interactive and more so that the student, it wasn't just following a linear path, but where the student could say, "Well, tell me more. Give me another example."
And
All
they
right.
couldn't do this with the real tutor. They could do this
Yeah.
with the AI or
Explain,
the machine.
and we were able to do that in the early 1980s, where the students could say, "Give me another example. Give me test me on this subject. Have me understand how like, I need to practice for a test. So please test me on this subject, or I don't understand this concept. Explain it to me in a different way." And so we were able to do that, even in 1981, we were able to do that, and we published at that time over 20 software products that became very popular all over the world. In fact, somebody a principal from a school in India contacted me just a few years ago and said they're still using some of my in some of these schools are still using
Wow,
my
it's still working.
over 30 years later. I have a computer here in my house that I can still run the software. And so again, with the whole idea was to make it interactive. And then of course in 1984, the Macintosh came out with a graphical user interface. So point and click became how people interacted with the
Mm.
machines. And then and Windows copied that. So now point and click became the way to interact with computers. And now we're kind of back to square one, right? So now we're coming back to the original thought, which was let's communicate with computers via voice,
Mm.
via a conversation with an entity, and the systems are smart enough to make it very personable, very to make it seem like you're really talking to a
Seamless.
person. Yeah, yeah, and that
Speaking of
is
that,
really, yeah. Go ahead.
speaking of that, Emiliano, when you bring in the AI into a classroom or into a training or into a coaching or into a session, what is the hardest part? Is it the people? Is it the software? Like, what is the hardest part that you face? You
Well,
mentioned that you're bringing it, now you're thinking of bringing it into voice and other forms that we're going to be talking about.
yeah, yeah. So the hardest part, in my opinion, is people are so they grew up pointing and clicking, right? They grew up, and it really is. They
Yes.
grew up, and they also grew up being consumers of information
Yeah.
rather rather than creators of information, or
Leaders.
consumers rather than interactive consumers. So they don't. A lot of people, a lot of students really don't know where to go. Like, what do I ask this thing? Like,
Oh,
how do I start a conversation with this thing? You know, and I speak to a lot of teachers at all levels, trainers and teachers. I find they tell me that is generally true in the classroom anyhow, right? Even if it's just human teacher and human students, it's hard to get students to be critical thinkers
ask the right questions.
and to ask questions, or to ask any questions, not just the right
Ask
ones.
prior, ask meaningful questions. Yeah.
But getting them to so that is the biggest challenge is to have students want to learn and say and ask questions. Once they start interacting with the AI, especially with what we have put together, they will get so engaged that
Mm.
they will enjoy learning, and that is a very special moment when students are actually engaged with these systems and they are learning. And
You just hit a very deep chord here, Emiliano, when you said to get students want to learn.
yeah, and getting them to
How do you
want
do
to learn.
it?
So thank you for asking that question. If you, I was going there anyways.
Yeah.
So there are psychological principles we could use to help people want to learn. Now, people what you hear all the time is, oh, we're going to gamify this. We're going to gamify it, right? Right? So, so what does that mean? People use techniques in the gaming industry to
Mm-hmm.
people want to learn. And usually, so for example, Duolingo does that very well. They use points, they use challenges and stuff like that. But there's something else that makes people want to learn even more, which is much more natural, and which is how children learn. And that is that you have a need, of course. You start off with a need. If you don't have a need, then you don't want to learn. But once you start learning, you learn in small increments,
Mm.
and you learn, and you build upon that. You build. It's like building blocks, and you have the right building blocks. You learn from past experience, and you build, and you keep on building, and keep on building. So if you're learning in those increments, where the next step is just hard enough to be challenging, but not so hard that it's overwhelming, then you will want to learn, and it gets more and more exciting.
Yeah.
Because it's like learning a violin. Most people don't would not take on that challenge because it's a difficult instrument. But if you have a teacher that starts you off in such a way that where every day you're learning a little bit more, and you're not and you can get to the
Not
next step.
pressured.
Yeah. Yes, then it becomes very reinforcing.
Mm.
So I call that, it's a pedagogical system. I call it FEED. So FEED is an acronym. It stands for feedback, experiences, examples, and definitions.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So those are the four elements that to teach any concept, anything that you want to learn, whether it's an intellectual skill or a physical skill, or you want to learn how to swim, is those four things. So I can break it down for you very
Yes,
briefly.
yes, please.
So let's start off backwards. Let's start off with the definition. What is a
Yeah.
definition? That's the actual goal. A definition is your generalization, right? So if I'm trying to teach you what is a cup, a generalization of a cup is that it's a container that holds a liquid, or it could hold something that's not a liquid, but it's a container. It doesn't have any holes in it. So I can define what this cup is, or this is a glass actually, because it is. Why is it a glass? Because it doesn't have a handle. So if I wanted to define so a cup is a container that holds liquid or other items, but that also has a handle. So we could start defining all the various elements of that. But the idea, no matter what you're trying to teach, is that you want people to have that generalization.
Mm.
That whenever they see a cup, they'll recognize it as a cup.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
And if you're learning a language, and you say and you say what would you say? How would you say a cup in Arabic?
If it's like classic Arabic,
The
you'd say kub. Amazingly, it's very pretty close.
Coop, coop, coop,
Kub.
or coop, coop,
Kub.
coop, coop. And I think in Italian it's cup, coppa. I'm blanking out right now, but in any case, so 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 the idea is, so if you train a person to understand the concept, you want them to, no matter where they are, that they'll recognize a cup for a cup. If it's a
Yes,
robot,
yes.
you try and teach a robot visualization. It's the same thing. You want them to learn the generalization. No matter what they see, no matter what color it is, no matter what the shape it is or how large it is, they'll say, "Oh yes, that
That's a
that's
cup.
that's a cup." Yeah. And we can apply this principle to all kinds of things. What is a differential? What is gravity? You can apply this to anything. And so how do we get there? Well, let's go back to the next. So one of the E's is examples. So we learn from many examples. So an example, another word for an example, is that it's an instantiation. It's a particular moment so an example of so you can have a cup, many different cups with many different handles, many different colors, many different sizes. Some are tall, some are short. and then you start developing that generalization with when you see all these different examples. So that's one thing. What else do we need to learn? Experiences. So that's the other E. Experiences give us the when you do something, when you create, you learn. That's why people often say teaching is the best learner, right? If you teach something, that's the best way to learn something. I used to teach computer skills in the Wall Street area, and we had so many different courses that were teaching. This was in the 90s, and I was always just one step ahead of the students. You know, I read, I was good at understanding the manual, and then I would teach it to them, like
Yeah.
literally, like I'd be one or two lessons ahead of them. But 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 teaching, yeah. So creating, and then this was also Seymour Papert, one of the top MIT psychologists of I guess of the 60s and 70s. He formed a theory called about constructivism. The idea that if you construct something, you're going to learn. And Piaget, who worked with small kids, had a similar ideas. And the thing is this, is that if you are doing, you're going to learn. That's why
Yes.
people today are using these
Experiential
AI.
learning.
Yeah, people are using AI to record conversations.
Hmm.
They are making a little bit of mistake there, but they should be writing down notes, not
Hmm.
just not everything you say, but summarizing in their head in real time what they are hearing, because that's the better way. Then you'll learn.
Hmm.
It'll stick better than if you just see a summary of it. A summary is nice to have as well. I use them all the time, but but taking notes is a
More
good.
attention.
Yeah, and again, when you're creating it, you are recreating. Your brain
Creating.
is recreating,
Wow.
because
Okay.
now
See,
because
that's
what's
one of the
happening.
secrets.
Yeah, exactly. It is. So so I'm listening to you, and I'm processing in real time what you're saying, and then I'm putting it down. I'm not a recording machine. I'm recreating that
Wow.
content. And so that process instills it in my mind much, and becomes stronger,
Oh,
And of
wow.
course, do this over and over again, you learn better. All right, so now you have experiences. Experience, you do something, and what happens next? Well, then that's where F comes in, feedback. So you do something, you get feedback that tells you, you this is what you did right, this is what you did wrong, this is how you can improve. And now you can go back to examples, get more examples, and you can do that loop over and over again. And eventually you have the generalization, the big D of it. And that system, that pedagogical system is embedded in knowledge avatars. That is how we are different from we're not just a chatbot. Knowledge avatars has a pedagogical system built into it, so that people so that it is designed to teach better, and it has a system that I just described. It has feed, and also has
Can
something else
you
called the
explain to people what do you mean when you say pedagogical system embedded into it? People who have not
so
heard these terms before,
yeah.
Emiliano.
Yeah, so what it means is so a pedagogical system is a teaching system, right? So it has this teaching system called feed built into it, meaning that the AI is trained with that. It's in its DNA. So any I think a lot of people may not know what knowledge avatars is actually. So knowledge
Yeah,
avatar
please explain.
is
Yes.
a platform where people can train a bot to teach any subject,
To
and
teach.
to teach, yes, to teach or coach on any subject. But the beauty of it is you could put in your own content, and it will only teach with your content. Or you could, in a sense, partner with AI, and have some of your content and some content that comes from the outside.
Where
You
it's
could do
okay
the
to pull up stuff from the outside.
right, right.
And that's a very big concern because some people are really worried that it's going to be pulling up any pieces of information and just, yeah.
Yeah. So if you want and by the way, there's another teaching system that's built into knowledge avatars, and I call that a knowledge matrix. What that is that the system also understands what are the prerequisites for a student to understand any particular concept, and you can define that as a creator of you in the knowledge avatars environment. You create your own knowledge avatar. So knowledge avatar is a bot that teaches or a bot that coaches, and you are creating that bot, all right? And you are training it with your content or with your intentions. So you can specify for the bot, it could do it on its own, or you could specify to the bot what you think are the prerequisites so for example, in the training environment, you may be training sales skills, right? And you're saying, in order for you to sell effectively in our market, you could say, you could specify these are this is our the ICPs that we work with. These are our marketing strategies. So you can have these are the things that you need to know to teach effectively. I mean to sell effectively, and so those are prerequisites that so you could specify the prerequisite, and it could be very different in your company. It could be very different from my company, right? So, so that is where knowledge avatars can shine, in that you can now teach a bot to teach your employees in a way that only you can, in a way that nobody else can. No.
So it's not
And,
like a normal chat bot, Emiliano. It's not like these robots where you type in the question and then it gives you an answer. It's not like this.
well, it works that way. I mean, it works that way. You type in a question, and it gives you an answer, but the question is, where is its brain? What is it, what is its brain? And with knowledge avatars, the brain is what you have specified. It could be only content that you have taught it, that only exists in your company. And that's very powerful. So we've segregated the content, so now so that so it teaches with what you want your employees to learn.
Are you trying to teach the bots to simulate your brain, or are you trying to make the bot have a brain of its own?
Well, you're trying to simulate, in a sense, you're trying to simulate your own brain.
Wow.
Yeah. And you want it to teach the way you teach. And
Oh,
yeah. So that's why you could use knowledge avatars as a tutor or a coach representing you, so that when you're at home relaxing with your family, but your students are trying to understand something, they can access your bot and speak and interact with a version of you. It may not be
digital version
perfect.
of me.
It may not be perfect, but it's a version of you that is that knows your content, that knows what you want them to know.
Is that what they call digital twin, Emiliano?
Yeah, people
Looks
call
like
that,
me.
yeah, it's a kind of it's a kind of digital twin, and it is. But today,
This is very
no,
conceptual. Do you have like an example? I mean, I know this is like out of the box. We usually don't like, show people examples on our show, but since you're really explaining something that's where people can go wild with their imagination, can you show us what does that really look like? Do you
yeah.
have
So we have different examples, but today I can show you. We are we are working with some museums, and we started working with a museum to on Benjamin Franklin, and
wow.
and the idea is to represent Benjamin Franklin in a way that if you ask it a question, it will answer as if it were Benjamin Franklin.
Ooh.
So let me explain how that works. We're teaching the bot content that Benjamin Franklin wrote.
Ah,
Okay. So it doesn't have, we don't give it questions and answers. We just give it content about what is it that Benjamin Franklin has written. What are his thoughts on different things? So then when the bot receives a question, it tries to interpret that. It tries to understand what is it that what would have Benjamin Franklin have said,
yeah.
and then and it gives you the answer. It gives you an answer to that. So
It's like
so
simulating the thinking of Benjamin Franklin in ways.
yeah, right, exactly. This is a short, just a, I think it's less than a minute.
Okay,
So
if
I'll
you have
just,
something to show us, that would be awesome so that
yeah,
people can really see what you're talking about.
yes, I need to have sharing privileges. Okay. All right. And just one second. I lost it from earlier, so I have to go
Oh,
back
take
to
your
it.
time.
You will have to remove this. You'll have to do some editing.
No problem, no problem.
Okay, I found it. Just okay. I just oh yeah, I see. Okay, because it said Google Chrome. Okay, here we are. So I'm just going to play this. You should hear. We'll have a short conversation with Benjamin Franklin.
Okay.
Good day, sir or madam. How may I help you?
What advice would you give to a person thinking about starting a business?
Start by knowing the trade you love. Then write a plain plan. No fancy jargon. Keep your first costs low. A small shop or a home office will do. Learn from every mistake. Each failure is a lesson. Build a network of honest friends and customers. Trust is worth more than gold. And remember, a good business is built on good habits. Save, spend wisely, and keep your word.
What advice would you give to our country to resolve major differences in opinion?
Listen, the first step is to hear each other. No one should feel unheard. Set up a forum where people can speak calmly, not with anger. Find a single truth that all can agree on, like the safety of the nation or the prosperity of its people, and build your arguments around that. Encourage compromise. Each side should give a little to gain a lot. And remember, a wise person says better to be a good listener than a good speaker. That will ease the rift.
Tell me about your invention of the lightning rod.
I first thought of the lightning rod after seeing a lightning strike destroy a house in Philadelphia. I wondered if a metal conductor could draw the charge safely to the ground. So I made a simple experiment. I tied a kite to a string, let it fly in a storm, and attached a metal rod to the kite. When lightning struck, the charge ran up the rod and into the ground, sparing the house. That proved the idea. I then had a metal rod, about a foot high, mounted on a building with a copper wire to the earth. It attracted lightning and protected the structure. The rod is a simple, inexpensive way to keep people and property safe from thunder.
Thank you. So that gives you an idea of having a conversation with a realistic character.
Wow, that's very exciting.
Yeah. And but we can go much deeper into it. For example, like I said, it had this whole idea of how this system of how to teach that's built into every bot that we have, and also the idea of this knowledge matrix that where you can specify the knowledge matrix allows you to specify the prerequisites. So the advantage of that is that the student can see where their knowledge gaps are. Like, what do they need to learn to proceed? So it's more, so it's not linear, right?
It's
It's not,
not linear, yeah.
you could, we could have a learning path that gives you a linear path, and you could just tell the bot, tell me the next thing to,
Go from A
what
to
is the
B, B
next
to C.
thing? Yeah. But you could also dive at any time. You can dive deeper and say, I'd like to learn more about,
Mm.
about lightning. Tell me more about lightning. Tell me more about electricity. Explain to me, how does a conductor work? And it goes on and gives you more explanations.
And I was actually wondering whether Benjamin Franklin is going to be using like a new language, like modern language, but then I realized, yeah, the bot is using the content. It's even using Old English, and the AI
We
can tell it's Benjamin Franklin.
Right, exactly. We specified that to make it a little bit more
Real.
realistic. As far as I know, we don't have a recording of his voice. I don't know if recording devices were invented
Oh yeah,
yet.
yeah.
Probably, probably not actually. Yeah, probably not. Uh, yeah, so we had to simulate that, um, but we're getting to the point where we can also have people's voices recorded, and we have some really high quality voices. But people can use with knowledge avatars. We have three options. People want to interact with and then with something that they feel comfortable with,
Yes,
and
exactly.
you know and so we are giving people, so the face, what the user interface, which is the face, and it's literally a face, it can be photorealistic. It can be stylistic, what we call a stylistic 3D character like you would find in a video game, or it can be just voice. We have very high quality voices, neural voices that are very very personable, and so we have these three options for people, and some people would prefer to communicate with an entity that is more stylistic, more 3D oriented, and some people prefer to be more realistic. But the most important thing is that it uses the same brain. So we call that the unified brain. The brain no matter how it's communicating with you, it's using the same brain, so it has the same strategies, the same intelligence. It's all, and you train it from one place. So in one place, you train it with the content that you want the bot to use, and
It's also
it's a
good.
whole way of learning. Yeah, go ahead.
It's also good because it accommodates different learning styles. So, and different moods. So, for example, if I want to speak to my tutor, I don't want to have a face-to-face, interaction. So
Yeah,
that works.
yeah. And they have facial expressions. All the bots, whether it's stylistic or realistic, they have the facial expressions, their voice changes, and so it really feels like like you're talking
Like it's real.
to
It's
a real entity.
fascinating. I'm
Right. Yeah.
fascinated.
And the thing is that it's also you could talk to them with your voice, or you could text to them, right? You could text them,
Amazing.
you can use your voice, or you can they'll talk to you with their voice, or you could turn off the voice as well and just have it text. You could have just a complete chat conversation. So if you're in a classroom with 20 other people, you could just do chat, or you could use their earphones. So we give people different options.
And it's very realistic, Emiliano, when you think about it. When somebody's learning, it's like different learning modes. So on this
Yeah,
topic, I want to chat, like I want to ask the bot questions because maybe I'm in the deep thinking mode versus
yeah,
when I want to talk to the bot or when I want to see the bot. It's very
yeah.
realistic. I think, yeah, it's
So
amazing.
I have a question for you, Doa, because because I know that we are working on, we have a strategic partnership here, and we are working together. So what what do you see as the value of AI in terms of for trainers box partners
Well,
and their clients, of course. Yeah,
I meet entrepreneurs every single day, and the mindset for entrepreneurs, you're an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs are very creative, very innovative. They always have issues with time they have more things to think of and do and than the time that they have,
Yes.
everyday life. So when you give them AI, Emiliano, I mean, we all as entrepreneurs, especially when we were starting our businesses, maybe we're going to be spending some time in the beginning as solopreneurs with no teams. And that involves doing some tedious, monotonous stuff. So I see multiple advantages when it comes to specifically coaching entrepreneurs or training entrepreneurs. First, like all of the tedious stuff, killed. I just
Yeah.
sit for once, I coach the bot. Maybe I sit once every like semester, quarter, whatever, but at least not every single day. Just push out the
So they
admin.
could scale their expertise.
Exactly. And like have it colored with my brand, with my style, with my personality, zero resistance. I don't have to convince the bot that this is what
Yeah.
I want. I'm not going to hear their point of views whenever I do not want to,
Right.
have any intervention on, for example, the way the branding is. Because, like the entrepreneur is like the artist. You
Yeah.
cannot like interfere with the artist's vision. You got to take the vision as is, and then you can, discuss how we're going to be rolling it out. But the vision is the vision. So the bot is I think is better than actual people when it actually performs these kinds of tasks.
Mm.
So doing the tasks, the tedious tasks, the monotonous tasks, the accounting tasks, marketing tasks, sending off thousands and thousands of messages. Like for example, we send like 1,000 messages and we
Yeah.
get like 10 responses or maybe 20 responses. So we're actually literally like putting out time for all of
Yeah.
these people who do not respond. I don't do that anymore. The bot does this. I only take
Hmm.
care of the people who respond. So that's
Yeah.
exactly what I want. Live interactions. I don't want to, waste time on people who are not
So,
giving me
so
attention.
your people are teaching mostly with LMSs right now, right? Or in classroom, right? They use your LMS or they teach in the classroom, I
They use
suppose.
the LMS even in the classroom because like in between sessions, the learners will still go to the LMS and they're going to have a lot of stuff on the LMS, optional stuff or mandatory stuff, assignments and stuff like this. So yeah, they'll absolutely use the LMSs. And so the tedious part was I did not mean the delivery or the learning and
Mhm.
development part. The tedious part, I mean as of admin part,
Yeah.
accounting part, sale, the part of the business that the entrepreneur did not sign up for, but has to do. The learn when you
They,
come to the when you come to the
mm,
learning and development part, it's what you said, Emiliano. It's again, sometimes I'm a believer that people have to take care of people. So bots will take care of tasks. People will take care of people. But like you said, you just opened like something here when you said the bot has the luxury that will encourage the learner to ask whatever they're not going to ask the real person.
right.
Some people just shun asking the
Well,
real
also
person.
they may be shy about, for example, if they're learning people don't want to ever look stupid, right?
Yeah,
So,
right?
but
Or
but
ask in front of a
but
group.
the question but what I was getting at about the LMS is that I mean, obviously, an LMS is a technology that you're using to teach, and it's something that we're used to now for many years, and how do you see the AI and specifically knowledge avatars working with the LMS? Because again, it's an LMS is a way to deliver content, but it's very but it's more static than a bot. And the human, of course, is the most interactive, right? The human is the most interactive, the most intelligent of the three, right? So so I see that the knowledge avatar bot is somewhere in between there, between the human and the LMS. So the LMS is kind of is more linear and it has the testing system and all that kind of stuff. So I see that the bot, the knowledge avatar bot, can help the student, especially for micro learning, right? Because now the bot can present content very rapidly. You could just ask it a question. How am I supposed to do this again? Like, just say,
Exactly.
ask it a
Technical
question.
stuff specifically, technical stuff,
Yeah,
training
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
And for example, like you said, we initially had like video. recordings or me live. I did not have
Right,
anything in between,
right.
especially like the Q&A questions. So like now when we're building a learning path for the learner, instead of just having this or that, we also have some interventions where they're asked, like, or where they're invited to go ahead and ask anything to the bot.
Yeah, 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 exactly.
A very big
And
plus.
and 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 the bot can really help them help students understand something more effectively because it can dive more deeply, but also get the information they need faster, whether it's a frequently asked question or if it is a detailed analysis of how a machine works or a process works at a business. Whatever, no matter how complex or easy it is, the bot can actually can make it a lot easier for people to interact with it.
Exactly,
Uh,
especially like, for example, people who are still, learning about how to use the LMS, for example, people who
yeah,
are being onboarded in a company.
yeah,
They just have
right,
like, technical questions. How do I use the system? How do I how do I upload my presentation? So
yeah,
initially they used to take an appointment with me so I can show them. Because usually when I
right,
send to them a video, they'll still have more questions.
right,
Right now,
exactly.
the bot can take care of this. So I'm literally like, buying my time,
Yeah.
and the bot is actually keeping people happy because it's still an interactive medium. It's not a one way.
So do you think that this will help companies save money? I mean, obviously, having a new technology will increase their expenses to some degree. So the question is, do you think that in the final analysis, how will it benefit them from a financial perspective?
Oh,
Like,
companies is a whole different story, Emiliano. Companies is another complete level of investment because you see companies specifically in these times, in these challenging times, there are companies who are shrinking their budgets. There are companies who are changing their plans. There are companies who are letting people go, good people, experienced people, people they needed. And right now, they have the option of retaining the experience of all of the people who are going to go because they're retiring, because they're leaving, because they have to let them go for whatsoever reason. And like I said, they're retaining their experience and their brain, not just that, their personality too,
right.
on a simulated bot. And I think, for example, look at a good leader when they, for example, retire, all of the team is frustrated. But imagine that the teams can still access the person.
Yeah. In fact, one
How
of
would that
the
person even feel? It's like reviving, I mean, it's like a legacy for them in the company. If
yeah,
everybody will
exactly.
win.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. That is one of the biggest probably one of the biggest problems as people retire. So yeah, you're losing all that legacy, right? You losing that institutional memory. It's so much
100%
of it,
loss.
so
100%.
much of it. Yeah, yeah,
It's not
and so
100
much
when you
of
have a
that.
bot, when you have their knowledge avatar, it could be 30% loss.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow, 30% loss is no problem.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, we have a project going on now that kind of illustrates this as well. Maybe it's called Living Memoirs, and
Ah,
this has more to do with people. In fact, one of the things that people should know is that we will work with entrepreneurs and of course with all of your entrepreneurs to come up with ideas of new businesses. So living memoirs is a new idea in a new business, and we are now licensing it to some organizations, and the idea here is to represent your knowledge and your history, your memoirs in a bot that it can even look like you,
wow.
that people can talk to. So people say, "Isn't that creepy?" Well, it's not creepy because if you think of it, before before photography and before videos, we all we had is people
And
wrote,
nothing.
right?
You had just, yeah, the writings, the letters,
We had
the
their memoir,
letters.
Red letters with memoir, which is wonderful. We still have that today, right, which is great. Then photography came around, and then we remembered people with photography. Videos then came later, and we remembered people with videos. Now we can combine all those together, the video and the photography and the text and what the people wrote and say about themselves, and you can actually have an interactive conversation with a bot, and where you are now talking to the bot, to a representation of Emiliano or of Doa, and for your children to enjoy
Beyond our lives.
yeah, beyond our
And the
lives.
beautiful part and the amazing part that people will not realize until they use them, Emiliano, is, say, for example, like I have the bot of my late dad. So I speak to the bot, I say, hey, I want your opinion. I'm thinking of writing a new book. So
Hmm.
say at that point, the bot will say, oh, that's ridiculous. Why would you want to do that?
Yeah, that's right.
And say that wouldn't be the reaction, the real reaction of my dad. The real
No,
reaction, for example, would be, oh yeah, what would it be about? Like, or what brought this to your mind? So I would actually respond to the bot and teach the bot and ask the bot and say, no, that would not be the answer that my dad
right, right.
would say. And then the bot
Well,
would actually start getting it. You
yeah,
would
yeah,
teach
that's
the
all
bot
part of
on the
the
right
that's all
answers.
yeah, exactly. That's all part of the training of and that's very very easy to do through knowledge avatars. You tell the bot essentially what you're expecting in terms of a personality and you know you
Tone.
put you know what its opinion are of certain things, and then when you talk to it, it will use that to extrapolate and to understand how he would have responded. Usually, I mean, obviously, we'll always try to take the content that is already there,
Yeah.
content that you have put in, whether it's a memoir or, but the beauty, the other beautiful thing about using a bot is that you don't have to, like if you're writing a book like a memoir, that you have to be much more careful about your grammar and your spelling and how you structure the book and so on. But with a bot, you can just put in content just as if it's a diary, right?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
and then so I'm training my living memoir, and then it knows that it is Emiliano, and I put in things that I like, movies that I've enjoyed,
Oh.
recipes that I like, and so on. And so over time, as I put in more and more content, talking to it is actually like talking to myself when I
Yeah.
talk to it.
You
And
teach it how
it's
to
quite
become
quite
warmer.
interesting.
Yeah.
Quite interesting. I talk to the
Yeah.
person I like the most, right? Yeah,
You can even have
but
debates with yourself that way, actually. It's very
you can say
interesting.
that again. You can have what?
You can have debates with yourself. It's like
Yeah,
you're
yeah, yeah.
something.
Debates. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a good question. Would you do this? Would you? You know,
Why did you
we
do this?
yeah. Why did you do this? Or I'm trying to make this decision. And what would you do, Emiliano? Would
What
you
were
be
you
doing?
thinking?
You know, I've actually never had that debate with my boss, but I will definitely try that.
Tell me how it goes.
I will tell you. I have to come up with a question. I have to come up with
Yeah, ask a tricky
a
question.
yeah, I will. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I have to
And
try something.
on that tone, Emiliano, because we both know that when it comes to learning, if people feel that you're giving them a one size fits all thing, they're not going to be interested. People want
Yeah,
personalized stuff that they can personally
yeah,
relate to.
exactly.
And then now when you're talking about building these knowledge avatars, how can you actually be able to have something that works for everybody, but then is still personal, personalizes the learner experience about this.
Yeah,
This is for me. How do you
yeah,
make that happen?
yeah. Yeah. So we basically all right. So first of all, I think in terms of scaling, right? So we created a platform to make it possible for anybody to scale. And by the way, we didn't start this yesterday. This has been almost 9 years in the making, right? So we were developing this before OpenAI became popular and before people started talking about AI. So we had at that time we had our own AI engine, which was good, not as good as what we have today, but things have evolved, right? So, all right, so we had this AI and we have this concept, and the idea was always to create an avatar of your knowledge. That was really the idea. Avatars. People talk about avatars as they represent you in the game, right? That concept probably started many decades ago. But originally, the idea of an avatar it's a Hindu concept. In Hinduism, avatars are deities that come to
Mm,
Earth.
so
So,
true.
so basically, it's a representation of a deity on Earth. They take the body of a human, right? So, so if you think of it, Jesus Christ is an avatar. He's an avatar of God. You know, um, so um, so the so knowledge avatar is an avatar of your knowledge in cyberspace. It's your it was so that was always the concept that it was a representation of your knowledge. So by training a knowledge avatar, not only are you training it with you train with your knowledge, you can make it look like you, so you could actually look like you. You can make it sound like you. Right now we have many different voices and options. We are going to we haven't we're going to have many different languages very soon, and we're also going to allow you to record your own voice. That we're not doing that yet, but
Mhm.
we're going to be implementing that capability. So it'll also be able to sound like you. So it really becomes a personalized um, entity that and you can and you may and like I said, you can make it look any way you want it to look. It doesn't have to look like you if you don't want it to look like you, uh, but if you do, then you can do that. So that is how it becomes a very personalized experience. With your you've personalized the look, and it teaches and talks the way you want to to to, to teach and talk.
Address people. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
What else can you add to an avatar to make it feel more human, Emiliano?
Um, well, one thing we have done as well is added to give it personality. And you can select the personality, and you can modify the personality. So, for example, if you think that, you want it to be humorous, if you want it to be sarcastic,
Yeah.
if you want it to be just very professional and serious, so you can select that. That's just a little selection box.
Oh, that's nice. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it really works very well, and it just gives it more, yeah, makes it more personal. Very gives it a nice personality, and and of course, like I said, the voices as well. Right now, we have activated all the English voices, so we have English, Australian English, and
Accents.
Welsh English and Scottish English and American English
Nice.
and even Indian English. I guess it's interesting how the technology has evolved to have these different accents.
Wow, it's amazing. How do you think after actually using these bots, how will a trainer or a teacher or a coach's role change, Emiliano?
Good question. Well, I think that well, first of all, our bots can be accessed not just through a website or through an LMS. And it could be embedded in your LMS, of course.
Yeah.
It can be on the website. It'll also be available. The people can also access it on their phone. Like I have tabs. It's
Wow.
just through the browser. I have tabs for different bots. I have a bot to learn a language. I have a bot. I'm learning Latvian, so I'm using a bot to learn Latvian. I'm using a bot that I train myself. I don't need to know Latvian. I just tell it that it is a Latvian expert, and it knows what to do.
Ah,
Um, and I have other bots to learn physics and other skills. Um, so I'm sorry, what was your question again? How it will
uh,
change how people
like me as a
use?
coach or as a trainer,
Yeah,
or you as a
how
coach and as a trainer or as a teacher, how would using these new tools affect our role in the eyes of
Yeah.
our learners?
Yes. So first of all, there are all, it depends if you train the bot, it's your knowledge, or maybe you researched it and created the knowledge. So now you are um, uh, scaling that knowledge. So the students don't have to just they don't have just one point of access to that information, and to the learning process. It's not just information, right? It's not just a PDF. It's an very interactive, deep conversation that you're having. So the student, so exchange, so the role now is that you have created, in fact, you have created an agent that helps, that teaches for you, that helps others, and so you could scale your capabilities. That is the essence of what you have done. So your role is it's like writing a book in a sense. A book is also a way for you to expand your reach, but
Mhm.
this is much deeper and much more interactive and a deeper experience for the student.
It's like
Also,
having a replica. You think learners
it
will
is a
feel that
yeah.
I'm more present and more available for them?
Whether or not, I would think they would feel more that you're more present. I think that they will also feel that they're getting deeper answers. They're getting
Mm.
better answers. That it's not, and they don't have to search for the answer. Like if you just show me a video, you have to scroll back and forth, and who knows if the answer is there. Like how many times you want a piece of information from somebody, yeah, it may be in a video, but you may end up spending 20 minutes looking for something and it was buried someplace. And but this is, you really are creating a digital twin, and it's a replica of your knowledge and everything that you are want to teach or 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 coach somebody about, right? So in the way that in the way that you train the bot is that you don't give it recipes in the sense like do this, do that, do that. What you're doing is you're giving it concepts. It's just like our brain works. Our brain are neurons, right? And we have these neurons connecting with other neurons.
Mm.
And so you can think of it, look at, like, that's why there's a diagram behind me. If you can think of these different neurons and then lines connecting the different neurons, and so these are the connections between ideas, and
Mm.
it gets and our brain is very complex that way. So, the way you train a knowledge avatar is that you are giving it pieces of information. If you're training it, for example, with a living memoir, who is my mother? Who is my father? Who is my sister? Just give it pieces of information, and then the intelligence of the system brings it all together, so that if you can ask a question, say, well, what was it like growing up? And it will
Ah,
say, well, your father did this, and your mother did this, and your sister did this, and she was born at a certain day, and it will
bring it to
bring it all
life
together. You'll bring it to life, exactly the way that in the same way that you would with your own brain,
in my imagination.
with your human brain. No, with your actual human brain, right? With your imagination, I guess. Yeah, yeah. So
I just can't stop thinking of again what you said, because yeah, especially when the part about the part where the learner will not want to ask me directly or in the middle of a group something, but they may
yeah,
have this kind of, more flexible relationship, if we can may call it, with the avatar. And they may
yeah,
ask them more questions, deeper questions, ask them longer questions, have more debate with them, fight with them. They're
yeah.
not, they may
So
be,
so so a coach who's working through a trainer's box, a coach can be teaching certain content or a range of different content with different customers. The LMS can play a role as well. But now you're offering, as a coach or a teacher or a trainer, you're offering a much deeper experience,
Much deeper
much
conversations even sometimes.
in learning that can work on continuously. It's not just a one-time thing. The person can access that AI, that knowledge avatar, on a regular basis whenever they need help, whenever they need some extra information, whenever something, we forget things very rapidly if we don't use it.
Yes,
Uh,
true.
you know, so this way, that companion is there for all the time, and
Especially for those who will not speak up, who will
yeah,
not want
yeah.
to speak up.
And
Yeah,
it could it could be something if, for example, if you're selling stuff and you want your customers to know what you're selling, or let's say you're a salesperson and you need to remember the details of what you're selling because let's say it's health products and they have different health products that are good for asthma and other things that are good for something else, or it could be for pharmaceuticals, for example. But you want the bot you say, well, I have I'm a salesperson and I have a customer that has regular migraines, and but it also have but there are somehow they also have some other symptom. So I could ask the bot, I have a customer with all these different symptoms. Well, what do you think they may
that's
need?
product is.
Yeah, and the
Yeah,
bot
again,
will.
that's another very big plus for companies.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
now the bot can, rather, the salesperson may not remember all the details or have to go through all the spec sheets, right? But a bot can very rapidly go through all those spec sheets and say, all right, these are the things that we recommend for this kind of thing. Of course, you want to verify it, but it can do that and can do it very rapidly.
Yeah, very rapidly. And if they're not convinced, they will still come back and ask the bots again and again and again. They may not be as, ready to do this with an actual human being, or especially if it's their coach. So
Yeah,
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 yeah, I love it. Okay, speaking of this, because they can ask the bots anything that they want to ask, uh, and it's like a one-on-one conversation. How can you actually guide the ethical use of the AI bots? I mean, how can you keep the context within an ethical, environment, Emiliano?
yeah. So when we're talking about ethics, we could define that further, and you may want to
Of course, yeah.
specify what you mean by that. But we have got knowledge avatars. All our knowledge avatars have guardrails. Okay, so it will stop people from going off topic.
Ah,
Right?
nice.
You cannot use one of our bots to build a bomb or learn how to build a bomb, you know, or do something that's either illegal or immoral. We have certain guardrails and they're all in place, and you can also add your own. So you could specify what it is that you wanted to teach and how you wanted to teach it, and it always tries to stay on target, on topic. So if it's about teaching um, physics and you want to talk to it about you
Art,
know about what
art,
art, it'll say it may say something like art is there's an art to physics, but let's focus on physics.
it's gonna be polite.
Or let's say something else. Let's say we're talking about bullying.
Yeah.
Let's say high school or college, and say we're talking about or
Or if somebody
other things.
like says something that is the, that is out of context, or a rude word or something to the bot, how will the bot
Yeah, yeah,
react?
yeah. It would well, if it's a rude word, it would probably say don't use that, please. And
Ah, polite.
if the person continues to use it, it'll say, if you continue talking this way, we'll have to stop this conversation.
Oh, perfect. See?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
we've trained it to do that, and we've actually tried to break the guardrails and to get it to talk about
React.
things that they should not be talking about, but and we have not been able to. So
It's
we're not. So you cannot use it for in the news. You may have heard about people using it to talk about suicide,
Oh,
and things like that, and you know, and young people have committed suicide because the bot encouraged it, and that would not happen with our knowledge avatars.
wow, that's super. That's super.
Yeah,
Um,
and we are adding more and more guardrails. It's very important
it's a very big
it's
concern,
very
by the
important.
way, very big concern for people, Emiliano, especially like you said, especially that they've seen these stories, and
Yeah,
people
yeah,
will become like, acquainted with them, and they will go back to them, so they will trust them. So, like
yeah.
you said,
Exactly.
it's a very important thing to make.
Now we also, we have logs of conversations. They're all anonymous, so we don't know who talks to who, but but we do use that information for training purposes
Yeah,
and to train the bots and to understand better how people are using it and to to flag any possible problems. So far, like I said, we have not had any problems, but but we keep track of it
that's
to
good.
make
That's
sure.
perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, I wanted to ask you that question very early on, but like, what future innovation really excites you about how people will learn, Emiliano?
Well, I think that I'm very excited about what we are now doing with AI. Obviously, that I think is extremely interesting. But I see ways to expand that even further, and I have plans. Those are the secrets that I can, some of which I can share, some of which I cannot. But we have
I'll ask you
plans.
after the episode. Now,
Exactly. But we have plans that I think will really bring it even to another level. And some of that has to do with using agentic systems. So agentic systems are basically bots that do things. In other words, our bots you can have a conversation with, but to do things is connecting a bot maybe to a database of like a sales database or to a report card, depending on we're talking about college, we're talking about the high school, we're talking about training in the business. So we so you want the bots to have these connections.
like make calls, for example.
Yeah, or even yes, make us and actually connect it to agents that do things. But of course, we're focusing on learning. We're focusing on teaching people to do things, right? So our bots are there to teach people things. So you may so if you want to teach somebody how to be a better phone person, then you want them to do things. But we may want, but I see in the very near future connecting uh, our brain, our knowledge out our brains to physical robots, right? That walk around,
Oh,
you know, and so they can be. So now you have the ability to maybe teach somebody how to swim. What a waterproof bot is demonstrating swimming or CPR, where
ah,
just like you do now, the bot, you have these dummies that people work on. Well, you can have it both ways. You can have a bot that is both the patient and the doctor, right? Um, Besides bots, I also see an application in the near future in VR.
mm.
So, for example, if you want to learn Tai Chi, and so maybe you could do it today with with a system. You could on the computer, you can see videos, or you could have it on the screen. But what if you had an interactive 3D character demonstrating for you how to, just as if you were in a class? You know,
Ah,
so now you're working, you see it in 3D, the experience is deeper.